King Dasharatha survived countless wars, but he didn't die on a battlefield. He died in his own palace, his heart giving out from the sheer weight of exiling his eldest son, Ram. The immediate consequence of his death was a staggering geopolitical crisis. Ayodhya was the seat of a massive empire, and suddenly the throne was empty. Crucially, none of the 4 royal heirs were anywhere near the capital to take the reins. In the ancient world, a power vacuum of this scale was an open invitation to chaos. The royal council knew that the moment neighboring kingdoms, or their own ambitious lords, realized the king was dead, rebellion would fracture the empire. To buy time, the council executed a desperate, secretive measure. They submerged the king's body in a massive vat of oil, preserving the corpse to keep his death entirely hidden from the public. Emergency riders were immediately dispatched to fetch the second in line, Prince Bharat, from a distant maternal kingdom. Their strict orders were to ride fast, keep their heads down, and absolutely avoid telling the prince that his father was dead. The survival of the empire now hung on a delicate thread. It all depended on a prince who was about to ride blindly toward a disaster he didn't even know existed. Hundreds of miles away, Bharat's subconscious was already reacting to the tragedy. Even before the messengers arrived, his sleep was plagued by terrifying apocalyptic omens. He dreamt of a vast, turbulent ocean that suddenly drained into dry, cracked earth. And in the center of the devastation, he saw his father plunging into absolute, inescapable darkness. When the exhausted royal messengers finally arrived and demanded his immediate return without a single word of explanation, it didn't relieve his anxiety. It validated every creeping dread he had. The journey back to Ayodhya was a blur of high-speed riding and mounting silence. Every mile covered was driven by an unspoken terror of what he might find at the palace gates. Bharat spent the entire ride agonizing over his father's physical health. He had no way of knowing that a meticulously engineered political trap was already closing around his future. Entering Ayodhya, the first thing that hit Bharat was the sheer, suffocating silence. This was the vibrant capital of a massive empire, but the streets were entirely mournful and still. The citizens didn't cheer his arrival. They cast fearful, averted gazes and quickly looked away. That silence pushed Bharat's lingering anxiety directly into outright panic. He sprinted through the palace corridors, blowing past his father's conspicuously empty royal chambers, and headed straight to the one person he thought would have answers, his mother, Queen Kaikeyi. Before a single word was spoken, the visual shock confirmed his absolute worst fears. His mother sat in a shadowy chamber, entirely stripped of her jewelry and the traditional red bridal markings on her forehead. That silent, devastating image of widowhood shattered Bharat. But his father's death was only the opening act for a betrayal that would cut much deeper. Queen Kaikeyi delivered the news of King Dasharatha's death with chilling coldness. She didn't frame it as a heartbreaking tragedy, but as the inevitable, necessary cost of fulfilling a royal promise. She then proudly walked him through what she considered her political masterpiece. She had cornered the late king by calling in 2 ancient, unbreakable boons, debts of honor he owed her from years ago. This flowchart shows the precise, 2-pronged logic of those boons. The first path forced the king to hand the crown directly to Bharat. The second path eliminated any future threat by exiling the rightful heir, Ram, to the forest for 14 years. From Kaikeyi's twisted perspective, this was a flawless execution of maternal love. She genuinely believed she had made a necessary sacrifice to secure absolute power for her son. She expected Bharat to embrace her, to celebrate his new status as emperor. Instead, she watched him realize the horrifying scale of the destruction she had just triggered. Kaikeyi had engineered the perfect political coup, but her strategy contained a fatal flaw. She achieved total victory, but entirely misunderstood the core moral architecture of the son she built it for. Bharat's paralyzing grief instantly boiled over into an explosive, righteous fury. To Bharat, the vacant crown represented the physical evidence of his father's death, and the calculated destruction of his family's peace. He brutally dismantled her logic right there in the chamber. He condemned her blind ambition as a poison that had fatally infected their royal lineage. Then he delivered the ultimate subversion of her political ambition. Instead of seizing the empty throne she had cleared for him, Bharat fiercely and publicly disowned his own mother. That raw, unfiltered fury proved a profound truth. Absolute loyalty and love simply cannot be purchased with a stolen crown. Bharat's next move was driven entirely by dharma, the ancient concept of righteous duty and moral order. He absolutely refused to let the priests place the crown on his head. He declared publicly, before the entire council, that the throne still belongs entirely to the exiled Ram. He made his final vow right then and there. He would leave the comforts of the palace, march deep into the forest, and act not as an emperor, but as a humble servant tasked with bringing the rightful king home. By choosing the dust of the forest over a stolen throne, Bharat demonstrated that the weight of one's duty far exceeds the allure of absolute power. In the face of a perfect political crime, he chose a path that prioritized justice over the crown itself.